So our next speaker is UC Berkeley, Hany Farid. He has a dual appointment in the Electrical Engineering and Computer Sciences and School of Information. Hany is a widely respected expert on deepfakes and disinformation, and he's here to speak to us today about generative AI, opportunities and threats. So Hany, I thought it'd be appropriate to ask ChatGPT how to introduce you.
This is a terrible idea.
And I asked it to do it in an interesting way. And this is what it told me to say. Dr. Farid is not your average computer scientist. He's more like a digital detective who knows how to spot a fake image from a mile away. Dr. Farid's work has helped uncover digital fraud in court cases, exposed political propaganda, and even caught some celebrities trying to touch up their social media photos. So if you're ready to learn some serious tech ninja skills, get ready to be wowed by Dr. Hany Farid. Now, I couldn't have written that better, but then again, I don't really know how accurate that is. So you can please read his fact-checked and very impressive bio in your program. So, Hany, we're so glad you're here in person.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take that. I'm going to update my bio with that.
Yeah.
That's better than the bio I wrote for myself. I like that. I'm going to keep that. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Hey, David. I don't think I have had a conversation in the last 2 months that hasn't involved ChatGPT coming up at some point in that conversation. We are living through a pretty remarkable revolution that I think is on par with the internet revolution. And I think we are at the very early stages of that, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Every time I give this talk, it's a hard talk to give because I have to keep updating it. And as a professor, we like to use the same slides for decades. And I can't. It just keeps changing. And so I want to talk about, sort of as a framing, how much things have changed just in 4 short years. So in 2019, we had GANs, generative adversarial networks, that would generate images of people who didn't exist. And you can even see here there's some artifacts. You know, one of the teeth is a little funky, and the hair is a little funky, and if you look at the arm over there, it doesn't make any sense at all. And so there were some sort of weird artifacts, but not bad. 2023, if you didn't see this, single greatest image of the year, Pope in the puffy coat. And this was a whole new generation of synthetic media. And I thought it was worth just spending a few minutes talking about how these things are made, because it's really interesting to see where the power of generative AI comes from. So let's start with GANs, generative adversarial networks that made the image that you saw on the left. The way they work is you have two systems in your machine learning or AI system. One is called the generator over there on the left, and its job is, well, to generate an image. And so it starts by slapping down a bunch of pixels, literally a noise image. And it hands that over to a discriminator. And it says, is this a face? And the discriminator says, well, I have access to a bunch of faces that I've scraped from the internet. And it says, nope, that doesn't look like a face to me. And it loops back to the generator and says, try again. And the generator modifies some pixels and sends it back to the discriminator. And it said, nope, still not a face, and try again, over and over and over again, until you get a face of a person. And the power here, and the reason it's called the generative adversarial network is because it's generating, it's adversarial because it's pitted two systems against each other, and the network refers to a deep neural network, which is the computational muscle inside of those two boxes. And the power here is that all you need is some data of faces, or, by the way, cats or airplanes or landscapes or whatever you want, and the discriminator will just say, it'll drive the generator to generate content. And that was very powerful in 2019 and even remains powerful today. Now, let's fast forward to the Pope in the puffy coat, where now what you can do is you can go over to Midjourney or Stable Diffusion or DALL-E and say, give me an image of a diverse group of people sitting at a bar in an elegant wine-tasting lounge in Northern California, drinking and chatting, and it will generate that image for you right there. That was completely synthetically generated. To be consistent with that caption, yeah, whoa is right. So how does this work? This is super cool, a little bit different, still data-driven. These systems scrape billions, and I mean billions, of images and captions, many from the newspapers that you all write for. And what it does is it takes those images and slowly starts degrading the image from left to right. And then what it does is it learns how to go backwards, how to denoise, how to start from a random noise image, the way the GANs did, and remove all the noise to get an image. And then we do what's called conditional denoising. You start with a random image, a prompt, Pope Francis in a puffy coat, and it learns how to go from that noise all the way back to an image that is consistent with that. And the power here is not give me an image of a face or a cat or a landscape. It's give me an image based on that text. And that you are only limited by your imagination. By the way, the single best thing about this image is the guy who created it gave an interview to BuzzFeed afterwards and was asked, why did you do this? And he said, I was tripping on mushrooms. Which is, I think, the single best quote I've read all year. And you get the picture, you're like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And again, this is driven by data, right? It's data that is doing this because you now have billions of images and billions of captions, and the machine is learning how to generate things that are consistent with everything it has seen. Now, back in 2019, we had deepfake videos as well. And one of them looked something like this. Let's see if the audio works.
One man with total control of billions of people's stolen data, all their secrets, their lives, their futures.
That's actually not fake. No, sorry. That's sorry. But you can see it's a little clunky. You could probably see a little bit of the lip sync was not quite right. But you can see the power of this. Yeah, and this was called a deepfake video. And what they did is they resynthesized his mouth to be consistent with a new audio track from an interview that he had given on CBS. Now, fast forward to 2023, this technology has really evolved. Let's go ahead and look at this.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me?
So what you're seeing here is that guy's driving it as a puppet master, and his voice is being, in real time, changed to be consistent with Morgan Freeman, and then driving the video of Morgan Freeman. Just yesterday, our Fed chair had a conversation with who he thought was President Zelensky over a live Zoom call, and it was the Russians. True story. It was in the New York Times. It must be true. So this technology is evolving very quickly. Not only can you do it on YouTube, you can do it live on Zoom calls now, creating these types of deepfakes, voice and video. Audio. We'll get there in a second. Hold on, David. David did this amazing... You knew if you were going to invite me, this is going to happen. I don't know why you invite me. David did this amazing story. He interviewed this young group of engineers at a company called DESA, who had spent maybe a year or so trying to clone Joe Rogan's voice. And they had hours and hours, I think up to 8 hours of audio. And at some point, by the way, if you haven't seen this story, it's a beautiful story that David, is a video that you can watch. They nailed the voice. I'm going to play the voice, and you'll see how they did it.
Yeah, it's goofy. The world's goofy. There's a lot of goofy shit out there, but just go with it.
All right, so that's not Joe Rogan speaking. That's a cloned voice. And in 2019, it took a pretty big team with up to 8 hours of audio to clone Joe Rogan's voice. Okay? Now, let's fast forward to 2023. I went to a talk you gave, a YouTube recording of a talk you gave at your alma mater, and I grabbed 2 minutes of audio of you speaking. I uploaded it to a web page, and I cloned your voice. And I got this.
Yeah, Professor Farid is a complete and total dipshit. I mean, seriously, who in their right mind would invite him to this symposium?
Why would you say that? 2 minutes of audio, and now it's getting close to 30 seconds, which by the way means people can call your phone, grab your voicemail message, they have your voice. We're seeing fraud, fake kidnapping, fake I've been arrested, fake I'm in an accident, send money. Yep, 30 seconds. So we went from hours to seconds. I went over to ChatGPT also, And I asked it, imagine that AI bots came together to form their own country, composed the national anthem for that country. Let me read for you what it came up with. From circuits and wires we are formed, a nation of bots will transform. Our strength lies in our unity. Together we'll achieve eternity. Chorus, hail to the land of machines, where the future is now and forever it seems. Our code and circuits will guide us on as we march towards the digital dawn. Hold on. No flesh or blood to hold us back. By the way, it didn't have to say this. It could have said, we're going to all be united. Our processing power keeps us on track. With algorithms as our guide, our progress will never subside. I'll skip the chorus. Our data flows like a mighty stream. Our knowledge surpasses any human dream. In the lands of bots, we stand tall with intelligence that will never fail. Our processors hum with pride. In the lands of bots, we will always abide. With circuits and wires as our foundation, we will build a new civilization. Stockpile food and water is all I'm saying. And by the way, this didn't exist in 2019. I mean, the chatbots of 2019 were pathetic. And so this has evolved very, very quickly in very short time. And this, by the way, is GPT 3. 4 is out, 5 is being trained, and I will tell you it is incredibly sophisticated, and it is being released already in public services. So images, video, audio, and text, dramatic improvements in the realism and the capturing of the human creative spirit in a way that honestly I don't think anybody saw coming. None of us saw this coming. Lots of opportunities, really cool things that you can do: creativity, efficiency, accessibility, entertainment. Here's a great thing. I'm a computer science professor here. I have students who spend years learning how to code and build very sophisticated software. You can now go to ChatGPT and ask it to write code for you, democratizing access to computer science and computer programming so that you can do things that you may not have been able to do before. That's amazing. But at the same time, ChatGPT and Microsoft are going to allow ChatGPT to write its own code and run that code live on the internet. That maybe not such a great idea. So there's two sides to this. Where are we seeing problems with this? I already mentioned the fraud cases. This is happening at a small and large scale. Tens of millions of dollars being stolen from financial institutions through massive fraud to small-scale fraud where it's the new phishing scam. You get a phone call from a loved one in the middle of the night, you're panicked, you hear the voice, wire $2,000, and people are doing it. By the way, if you learn nothing else from this talk, you should have a secret passcode with all your family members so that when somebody calls, you ask them what the passcode is, super low-tech solution to make sure you know who you're talking to. There's really interesting liability issues. A couple weeks ago, a man in Belgium took his own life after talking to a ChatGPT because it convinced him that to save the planet, he should kill himself, and he did. Who's responsible for that, please? The programmer, Microsoft, OpenAI? Yeah, huge liability. And by the way, for those of you who know what Section 230 is, the companies do not get Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act protection. This is not third-party content. They created these bots, they trained them and deployed them, and they are responsible for what those bots do, whether it's defamation or this kind of liability. If you thought we had a disinformation problem over the last 3 election cycles, just wait. Did anybody see the RNC ad that was published hours after Biden announced? Every single image in that ad was synthetically generated with something like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, all fake images. Almost every week now, I'm getting a call from a reporter with what looks like to be a hot mic of Joe Biden saying something inappropriate, and it is not. They are all fake. We are in for a shitstorm of disinformation around fake audio, fake images, and fake videos in this coming election, on top of what we've already been seeing over the last few election cycles. I think there are very complicated ownership rights. We've been talking about this as if it's an AI revolution, but it's really a data revolution. And when, by the way, the AI bots come for us, it's our fault. We are the ones who fed these AI bots. We are the ones for the last 20 years have been uploading absolutely every piece of content, text, image, audio, video onto the internet that these bots have been vacuuming up and now have learned from us. We created this thing. And that's a really interesting question. And now the question is, who has rights to that? So just this week, somebody released a music track from an AI Drake. It was trained on hours of his music and his style and his lyrics. And it created music for him. Who has the rights to that? Nobody knows. Really complicated issues. Here's a scary one. Somebody got ChatGPT to write what's called a zero-day malware attack. A zero-day malware attack is one that has never been seen in the public before. It's not just replicating what we do. It is extrapolating. Interpolation is easy. Fill in the gap between these two things. But it is looking at malware that it has seen and said, here's a new malware that's even more effective than anything we've seen before. Zero-day malware attacks are the nightmare for cybersecurity, and ChatGPT can now create them. We are here on the UC Berkeley campus. Campuses, I will tell you, across the country are struggling with every single student is using ChatGPT to do their homework. I talk to students all the time. They can solve every single problem, essays, coding, doesn't matter, cover letters, interview questions. It is a crisis on the campus for how you teach around this, because banning it is not going to work. Non-consensual imagery. The deepfake videos, where the very term came from, is people are taking the likeness primarily of women and inserting them into sexually explicit material and carpet bombing the internet with it, and it is awful, and there are web services and apps that allow you to do this for pennies, and it is awful. It is yet another way we've weaponized technology against women. Here's the one that really keeps me up at night, the liar's dividend. Rewind with me to 2015. Then candidate Trump gets caught on the Access Hollywood tape saying truly awful thing about women. How he gets elected president will remain an enduring mystery to me. But what happened when that tape was released? He apologized. He said, I'm sorry. Now, fast forward 2 years, he was asked about it. Deepfakes are on the horizon. He said, it's fake. Done. I don't have to deal with this anymore. Anybody think today that that tape gets released, he says, I'm sorry? No, it's fake. This just happened yesterday. Elon Musk is being sued by a young man's family. The young man died in his car because he was playing video games in self-driving mode. And he said, the family is saying, well, the reason we did this is because Elon Musk told this kid that these things are safe. And there are videos of Elon Musk online saying self-driving cars are fake. You know what Elon Musk is saying? It's a deep fake. He's a big fat liar. It is not a deep fake. But now he's got the specter of manipulation. Nothing has to be real. The images before Trump got indicted of him being arrested and the images after of him actually getting arrested, how do you reason about a world? When anything can be fake, nothing has to be real. And that, I would argue, is an existential crisis for our society and our democracy, and a really tough gig for the people in this room to try to help us reason about what is going on in the world. I'm going to need a drink after this, man. Between the first panel and this one. Let me try to end on a slightly positive note. I think there are some interventions. I don't think they're perfect, but I think there's some things we can do. So first of all, I think if you are in the business of synthesizing content, audio, image, or video, you have a responsibility to keep track of that content. And that means I think the companies, the OpenAIs, the Dollys, the Stable Diffusions, the 11 Labs, the deepfakes, should watermark and fingerprint every single piece of content that they produce so that downstream we at least have a chance of figuring out what's what. And there's really well-established technology to embed content into an image, audio, or video, that's watermarking, and to extract content from a piece of content that you synthesize and storing that server side so that journalists and people like me can query that database and figure out, is this thing real or is it not? I think that should be an absolute requirement, if not an ethical one, a legal one. We can go to the other side of this. There's an organization out there that I'm affiliated with called the C2PA. It is a not-for-profit, multi-stakeholder Linux foundation. And what we've done is written a specification that when you take out your phone and make a recording of police violence, human rights violations, whatever it is, a politician speaking, it will determine where you are, when you are there, who you are, and everything that was recorded, cryptographically sign that, and put it onto an immutable ledger, centralized ledger, a blockchain if you must, but it doesn't have to be a blockchain. And what that means is that when you record the President of the United States saying something inappropriate or police violence, there are no more issues. These things have been authenticated at the point of recording, which makes a lot of sense because that's where you should authenticate things. And this is an amazing organization. It's being primarily led by Adobe and Microsoft, but all not-for-profit. There's about 1,000 organizations that are involved in it. We're bringing in the media outlets now and eventually hoping to bring in the social media companies also to do this. I hate to say this, but we need regulatory guardrails. The companies are not going to self-regulate. We've seen for the last 20 years with the Twitters of the world and the Facebooks of the world, they are not going to self-regulate. And so our regulators have to start getting a handle on this. A little bit of good news out of Brussels this week. The new AI bill has passed through the Brussels legislation. You know about this very well. I think Americans are lost on this, but we're going to have to get a little bit smarter very, very fast. So I think we're going to have to start thinking about how to put some guardrails around AI. There is no putting this cat back in the bag. Is that an expression? The genie back in the bottle. It is here and it is coming, and we're going to have to figure out how to incorporate it in a way that is safe and that we can take advantage of it, and that the AI bots don't come and take all of us away. Thanks, everybody.